Hey, Brian Miller here, and welcome to Audio for Content Creators, where we help you sound better and level up for all your content creation needs. And this is another audio critique episode. This time, a set of samples sent in. Wow, that's good thing I don't have a very sibilant voice. A set of samples sent in by Naomi or Naomi. You'll have to correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Naomi is working with an SM58, a industry standard microphone, which I've actually got right here, which I'll be demoing in just a little bit as we talk through some of the problems, issues that she's working out. Naomi does ASMR, and she has a very, very soothing voice, which we'll hear in just a minute here. But the problem is she's finding she's got way too much bass buildup when she's using the SM58, which her guesses were the proximity effect, which is absolutely one of the things that's going to make that microphone sound extra bassy, but it's not the only thing. Plus, she's got a few other issues going on, and her question is, nobody's complained to me about it, but I feel it makes me sound very bassy. Is that desirable? Should I process my audio better or differently? I think first and foremost, we need to just listen to some of the audio samples. So she gave me a whole bunch of different things here. She gave me a sample eating the mic, which I assume means she was basically right up on that thing. This is not recording right now, but I assume she was basically right up on that thing. And that's a phrase I use all the time, which I assume she got from me, which is eat the mic. Whenever you're working with a dynamic microphone like the Shure SM58, you have to be very, very close to it to get the optimal sound. And then she gave me a sample recording with 1 inch off the capsule, 2 inches off the capsule, and 4 inches off the capsule. So let's take a listen to each sample, at least a little bit from each sample, before we start talking. This is my first time hearing all of these. I'll be doing this in real time.
This is me speaking straight onto the microphone, the foam filter on it. I'm going to be speaking at a decently loud volume. And right now, I'm going to show the noise floor. Here's that. So although I would love to speak right into this thing, right on it, and have my lips all over the thing, I think it doesn't like me that much. Or maybe just not in that kind of a way.
Okay, so that is eating the mic. Let's listen to 1 inch off the capsule.
Now I believe I'm about 1 inch away from the microphone. Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my headphones up a little to monitor myself better. I'm definitely trying to keep a consistent volume in my voice, no matter how close I am.
And let's do 2 inches off the mic.
So now I believe I am 2 inches away. I don't exactly have a tape measure, but I am doing the best I can with fingers and quarters and other silly ways of measuring. Because did you know a quarter is about 1 inch long, or diameter?
And let's do 4 inches, although I think this one we're mostly going to ignore for this critique.
This should be about 4 inches away from the microphone.
Let's actually normalize each of these so that we are listening to all of them at the same perceived level. Quick.
So although I would love to speak right into this thing, now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. So now I believe I am 2 inches away. This should be about 4 inches away.
The first thing you should have noticed is as she got further away from the mic, once we were listening to all of them at the same output level, so everything had been level normalized, the noise floor got more and more noticeable to the point where in the 4 inches away one, the noise floor was completely unbearable. It was unusable. I mean, just listen to this again.
This should be about 4 inches away from the microphone.
Yeah, that is completely unusable. So we're going to ignore 4 inches away. I think even 2 inches away was giving us an unreasonably high amount of noise. That is one of the things with dynamic microphones that you need to be aware of, which is they are designed, they have very low sensitivity, which is why they're so good at rejecting background noise. But low sensitivity mics mean you need to be much, much, much closer to them to get a healthy signal. And by healthy signal, I mean to make sure there's a wide distance between the sound source, which in this case is her voice, and the noise floor. And we call this the signal to noise ratio. It doesn't have to be a voice. We could be talking about the signal to noise ratio between an acoustic guitar and the background noise or the hum or the hiss or whatever, or birds chirping outdoors or whatever it is that you're trying to record, a babbling brook. So the first thing I want to do is work with the one that's eating the mic. And I think we're just going to be dealing with eating the mic and the 1 inch away from the cap. So I think those are the two best bets. So let's just put this on a loop and listen and see if we notice anything.
So although I would love to speak right into this thing, right on it, and have my lips all over the thing, I think it doesn't like me that much.
So I'm using this spectrum meter right here, this frequency analyzer, and first thing I'm looking at is there's a huge buildup right here in the 120 to 140 hertz range, which is most likely the proximity effect that she's getting from being so close to it. That's probably exactly where her fundamental frequency is, and then she's over and accentuating that by getting so close to the microphone. I'm going to switch over to the SM58 now to demonstrate the proximity effect. Now I'm speaking directly into the Shure SM58. I have my lips right up on the capsule, so I am basically eating the microphone at this point. And you'll notice if I back away even an inch, you lose a huge amount of the low end of my voice, and if I back away another inch, you lose even more, and by 4 inches, I may as well not even be using this microphone. The proximity effect means that the closer your proximity is to a dynamic microphone, in particular to cardioid microphones, and this is a dynamic cardioid microphone. So this really close-up sound is something that people are used to associating with the polished professional sound. But you can tell that there's a few issues with getting this close to the microphone, which is partly you're getting a whole lot of extra air and plosives because there's no air between, there's literally no physical air space between my mouth and the mic for all of those extra frequencies and harsh, weird things to dissipate, which is one of the reasons that a lot of times what you want to do is angle the mic and speak directly past it. Now you're getting all of that proximity effect, right? You're getting the low end, but you're not getting the extra air and the weirdness that you get when I'm speaking directly into it, where now it's kind of like a muffled sound, whereas the exact same distance away, but speaking directly past the mic from an off-axis angle, you get the proximity effect without the extra noise. The other reason Naomi's having trouble with bass build up is actually the room situation that she's in. I'll put the photo on the screen right now. She sent me a photo of her setup, and you can see that she's got a whole bunch of these egg crate foam things that she's stacked up in a corner that she's talking straight into. Now, here's the thing with those egg crate foam things. It looks like actually a mattress pad like that you would have in college or whatever, which is very clever and very resourceful. It's going to solve one of your issues, but create a second one. The issue that it's going to solve, or at least help you with, are the reflections, the echo, because you're going to keep your voice from bouncing off of the walls and coming into the microphone. The problem it's going to create is that really, really thin foam, see, to you that might seem thick, but that in the world of audio acoustic absorption is very, very thin. See, sound has size. High frequencies, high-pitched frequencies are very, very thin, so they'll get absorbed by that thin foam. But low frequencies are physically large. The sound waves are physically massive, and so that really thin foam cannot absorb those low frequencies. So you're probably starting to figure out what the problem is here. Having all of that thin foam around you will absorb the mid-high and the high-range frequencies, but it will not absorb any of the low range, which means you're letting all of the low frequencies in to the mic, but you're not letting in any of the high-range frequencies. You've got an imbalance in the frequencies that are being captured by your mic, and the imbalance is weighted to the low end. So between the imbalance from the foam and the proximity effect is where all that bass is building up. So the question is, what can we do about it? Let's listen to the 1 inch away. I think the 1 inch clip is going to give us, in terms of the clips you've already given me, the best chance. Let's listen.
Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my headphones up a little to monitor myself. Better?
We still have that bass buildup, which we're going to tackle with EQ in a second. But two, your voice naturally has a lot of sibilance. You have a really high-pitched frequency that's really harsh in your voice for some reason. That's not something you're doing wrong necessarily. It might just be how your voice is. And we need to take care of that because getting so close to a microphone and then having that super high-pitched harshness is really going to be grating on people's ears in the long haul. So we're going to try to tackle that with EQ as well at the same time that we do the low end. But then, yeah, there's quite a noise floor going on here, which makes me think you're probably not using a high-quality preamp. You might consider upgrading your interface. Okay, you're using a Behringer USB mixer. It's probably because of the Behringer mixer that you're using. I would recommend getting the Focusrite 2i2 or the PreSonus AudioBox USB. Either of those or a handful of other high-quality budget audio interfaces is probably going to give you a much, much cleaner signal. But let's talk EQ. Okay, first things first, I'm going to add a low cut and I'm going to add it at 100 hertz. So I'm going to get rid of everything underneath 100 hertz with a very, very steep low cut or high pass filter without even listening. I wouldn't say you have a deep voice, but you have a deeper than average woman's voice, which is partly why you have that beautiful, hypnotic sound that I think your viewers and your subscribers enjoy your voice and find it so soothing, which is great. We want to make sure we maintain that, but we get rid of the low end crap that we don't need that's taking away from your beautiful voice. So let's play this with the low cut off and then on.
Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone.
Here we have just gotten rid of all of the stuff that would be down here, the crap that we don't need. And you'll notice that there really wasn't any significant difference in the tone of your voice. All we did was get rid of the crap that is unnecessary. Low-end rumble is basically what we would call it. The next thing I'm going to do is I recognize, as I mentioned earlier from the spectrum meter, and you'll see here again, somewhere in 120 to 150 hertz, we've got that super buildup of where your fundamental frequency is. Typically, we would not touch the fundamental frequency of a voice because that's where the voice gets its primary tone, its fundamental tone, or timbre, or whatever you want to call it. But here, because you've got this extra buildup, we're going to very gently remove some of that fundamental frequency. It's probably right in here, just to take out a little bit of that extra buildup, which I really don't usually want to do. Let's do off and then on.
Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone.
Okay, so right away we have scooped out just a little bit. Next thing is, because you've got this preamp noise going on, I'm gonna do a high cut, and I'm gonna do a fairly steep high cut at, let's say 15 kilohertz, because the SM58 only has a usable frequency range up to about 15 kilohertz. So I'm gonna start there and I'm gonna pull it back. I'm gonna pull it back a little bit until I've gotten rid of as much of the noise as I can without significantly affecting the tone of your voice. So let's start here and pull it back until we go too far.
Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone.
Okay, did you hear somewhere between 8 kilohertz and 12 kilohertz? We went a little bit too far. Let's go up to 12. And now I'm going to do my standard subtractive EQ trick, which is boosting super narrow, sweeping around, finding frequencies that are egregious, and then ducking them out, getting rid of them. So I'll just take a second to do this.
Now I believe I am about from the microphone. Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone.
There were a ton of really harsh frequencies poking out, which is not something that normally happens with the SM58. This is a very, very warm sounding, very smooth sounding microphone by and large. That's typically very, very bassy, again, very dark. which we dealt with already, but then to have this many, I mean, I always expect a frequency somewhere in the 550 to 650 range. The nasalness of a voice comes out. I always expect that, but to have something at 900 and 1.6 and 3000, to have it at all those places so badly, like this whistling up here, that makes me think that you're having a really significant issue with, more than likely, it's the preamp. I'm guessing that Behringer preamp is introducing a lot of noise and really degrading the signal in a way that's not pleasant. But I don't have that, and I've never tested that unit, so I can't speak to it specifically. Let's do off and then on for the EQ.
Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone. Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone.
I think that this sound is much, much smoother, and now we can use compression.
Now I believe I am about 1 inch away from the microphone.
And let me play a longer clip now so we can hear a little bit more context.
Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my head.
Wow, we definitely need a de-esser. Did y'all hear that real sibilance? I mentioned that earlier in this critique. A lot of sibilance coming into the voice. So we definitely need a de-esser.
Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn.
Oof, that I gotta find that frequency and get rid of that. That's a problem.
Even just this tiny.
Ooh, did you see it? It's right here. Watch this spot. Watch this spot.
Even just this tiny distance away, I'm.
Yikes! Wow, that is something else. I don't know. That is some sibilance, Naomi, that you've got going there. That is aggressive. We're going to back off like 10 decibels right at 9 kilohertz.
Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my headphones up a little.
Wow. Yeah, that is some harsh frequencies going on there. I'm starting to just think you really need a better preamp. I mean, this is aggressive. This is a lot of work. Here's the difference. Let's turn off everything I've done and then turn it all back on.
Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my headphones up a little. Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my headphones up a little.
All right, so that's sounding a lot better, and I'm just gonna throw on the denoising. I don't want this to be too aggressive, but let's see.
Even just this tiny distance away, I'm having to turn my headphones up a little.
There's a lot here, and I feel like this is one of the least clear-cut audio critiques that I've done in terms of what you should do next. I think the SM58 is not a bad fit for your voice, but I do think you want to try speaking at an angle slightly past it. I think that'll help you get rid of some of the sibilance. I think you also try to position it slightly above, if you can get it slightly above your mouth, because as I've mentioned many times before, high-pitched frequencies come off the roof of the mouth. They come off the roof of the mouth and they shoot downwards. So if you can get it slightly above your mouth, you'll get rid of some of that high-pitched stuff. If you speak straight past it at about 45 degrees, you'll also get rid of a bunch of the extra kind of hissy stuff in the voice that's coming through. And if you stay about 1 inch to 2 inches off the capsule, you won't have as much of that bass buildup. And then you need to use some pretty aggressive roll-offs in the low end and the high end to take care of some of the room noise that you're getting and some of that low end rumble that's being built up by having the foam treatment, which is giving you an imbalance, although it is helping with the echo. And it's useful that it's helping with the echo, but you're having a trade-off with the imbalance there. And then, you really need to play around with your subtractive EQ because as you can see, I had to do some really aggressive EQing here. You have a beautiful, beautiful voice. I hope that this helps you capture it in the best way possible because it would be a shame not for your voice to be showcased. And lastly, I would definitely consider picking up a much more quality audio interface, the Focusrite or the PreSonus Audio Box USB. I can't smack talk the Behringer because I've never personally used it. There's a lot of crap in there that I'm not used to hearing in an SM58, and I'm guessing that's coming from the preamps. I know this was a very long episode. I'm not sure if anybody other than Naomi was going to get through this whole thing. I hope it was useful. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you noticed that I missed. Naomi, definitely keep updating us. And I hope to see you in the Content Creator Connection forum, the new private forum that I've launched, the community group that I've launched on Facebook. Those who are interested in joining during this introductory phase, hit me up in the comments if you'd like to join this new community and help us build what the community is eventually going to become when I do open it up outside of beta to the public. Totally free. It's just a community group that I'm doing as a service to content creators. So, having said all that, thanks so much for sticking with me. My name is Brian Miller, and always remember, our world is a shared experience. Every interaction is meaningful, and every person you meet, even virtually, is important. So come back soon to sound better and level up, and we'll see you soon. Merch. Links in the description.